I just want to talk a little bit about art as worship. Um, in the church right now, kind of the most popular version or form of worship is singing. That's kind of what we think of when we think worship. We think, being in church, singing hymns or contemporary worship music. Um, but a few years ago, I started thinking about the fact that the other art forms are also ways to worship the Lord. And, dancing has at times been a part of that, but it has never, at least in recent years, it hasn't been a very prominent form of worship. And that's something that kind of makes me sad. Like, I kind of wish that that we just danced. There are people who dance in, the more charismatic churches or whatever, and that's kind of considered to be weird in a lot of churches. Like, okay, dancing. But for myself, I guess I think dancing is just celebration. Dancing is a way of celebrating. And what is worship other than celebrating who God is? And, painting and drawing is another way of just expressing something and sharing what's inside of you and what's in your heart. And what's inside of us should be worship for God. And um, so I think it would be really cool if this could, if more people would make that a part of their life and a part of their relationship with the Lord is drawing and painting and dancing and singing and just playing their instruments. It doesn't even necessarily have to be worship music or, worship. It doesn't have to look like a really Christian-y thing. It's just expressing the love that you have that God has put in your heart, expressing who you are in Him, expressing who He is in you. So I wanted to share a picture that I made a while back and kind of the story that goes along with it. A couple weeks ago, I shared about my book Shelter and about how I had been learning some stuff and that the Lord gave me that story to kind of express what I've been learning. And this is another thing. There was a man who was talking about the story of Jesus healing the man by the pool of Bethesda. And the pool of Bethesda, it says that there was like an angel that would come down and stir the waters. And I think it was the first person to get in the water after the angel had been there would be healed. And so there was a lot of sick people that were gathered around this pool because they wanted to be healed. And Jesus comes along and sees this man, and this man has been lame for like 30 years, I think. And Jesus knows this. He sees him and he knows that he's been lame for so long. And he comes up to him and he says, "Do you want to be well? Do you want to be whole?" And, it's almost like the guy's offended by it. But, he's like, feels accused or something because he gets kind of defensive and he says, "Well, I don't have anybody to put me in the water, like, how am I going to get well?" And Jesus says, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." And this man that I was listening to was saying that it's interesting that Jesus asked him, "Do you want to be made well?" Because sometimes it's easier to not be. Sometimes it's easier to be the victim and to, you know, complain and make other people do stuff for you. And so Jesus asked him, "Do you want to be well?" And so that was kind of convicting to me because I think sometimes I don't want the responsibility that comes with being whole. It's like, people talk about adulting, and it's kind of like if Jesus walked up to you and said, "Do you want to be an adult?" you know, like, people complain about being an adult all the time, and it's like, you know, we were made to be adults. That's the thing. Like, I think that being an adult is a really beautiful thing. It means you're mature and you're walking in what you were intended to walk in. And so I just find it really interesting that that happened. And then Jesus tells him to get up and he does it. And that's what's so interesting to me. Like, can you imagine how much faith it would take after 30 years? This guy comes up to you and says, you know, do you want to be made well? And you're like, well, I can't, you know. He's almost like he's saying it's not my fault that I haven't been made well. And Jesus is like, just get up and, you know, just get up and walk. And the guy does it. He doesn't go, oh, I can't do that, you know, like, and, you know, maybe he wasn't, maybe he didn't have a victim mentality. I don't know. But I just think that's kind of amazing that he actually went and did it, you know, and I think when Jesus comes to us and, you know, and makes us whole, we have to actually get up and walk. Like, that's kind of amazing to me. Like, you have to get up and walk. And so I made this this picture because I realized that I wasn't, like, living that way, and I didn't, you know, like, I wanted to be the victim and lay around and, like, not have the responsibility of being whole. And so this is what I made. This is kind of an example of just that expression of what's in my heart, of what's God is doing. And it's not the most professional thing, but, you know, it doesn't have to be. You know, because, like, this is for me. This isn't for you. I mean, you know, if this blesses you in some way, okay, good. But you know, it's not something that I want to sell. It's just, I don't know, sometimes for me, like, creating something out of art is a way of, like, just declaring the truth and just seeking greater clarity about the thing that I'm learning, and just having a picture to remember it by. Like, that's really helpful to me to be able to look back and say, oh yeah, I remember distinctly, like, all these details somehow just from looking at this picture. It really helps my memory. Anyway, so that's just a little bit about, you know, some things that I've been thinking about, and some thoughts about worshiping and expressing who God is and what He's calling you to through your art. And not everybody is an artist, but I guess I think, you know, if you have the courage to try it, it might be worth it for you, you know, like, if it's never something that you felt like you were very good at. Everybody's art looks different, and there are a lot of people that make me feel like I'm not an artist because my art is very simple, and some people get very, very intricate and just do some beautiful things that make me feel like I don't have a lot of ability. But the ability I do have, I think, is valuable and worth doing something with. So I just want to encourage other people that if you know, to not be afraid that you might not be good at art, but because art's not really about being good at it, really. I mean, ask any artist. It's not about the skill. It's about the joy that you take in creating, and about just, you know, expressing something beautiful. So anyway, I hope that that made sense, and, you know, that there was something interesting in there that might have made you think a little. So, yeah, take care of yourself and keep exploring and trying new things. Bye.